What is the difference between noise and music? The easiest answer would probably be that music sounds good, while noise doesn't. Indeed, Google seems to agree with that answer. Interestingly, they've proven to not be mutually exclusive. There's a whole genre simply termed noise music. How is this not contradictory? In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the history of the genre, some notable bands, and what I personally like about them. Let's cut to the chase. The origins of noise music go back more than a century, with the seed starting to be sown in the 19-teens. In 1913, Italian futurist Luigi Russolo published a manifesto called The Art of Noise, in which he explored the history of noises and sounds. He argued that the Industrial Revolution had made it possible to create noises that had previously been not possible, and that composers should utilize this increased variety of noises in order to create music that would provoke listeners in all sorts of weird ways. He would go on to create intonal rumori, which are machines specifically designed to create weird noises. He would use these to write several symphonies, all of which are almost universally hated outside of the small group of experimental artists. However, he had paved the way for some very interesting music. Over the next few decades, more experimental musicians would dip their toes into noise music. However, if I covered all of them, this video would be unbearably long. Instead, I'm gonna fast forward to the 70s, when a Pennsylvania native named Glenn Branca made his mark. A guitarist by trade, Branca studied theater at Boston's Emerson College, and it was there where he was first corrupted by the world of experimental art. After working with the experimental theater troupe Bastard Theater, he relocated to New York City and threw himself into the local music scene. He formed the group Theoretical Girls, although they would only release one record, and he would soon begin to focus on releases under his own name. He also began experimenting with different sounds he could make with the guitar, and would go so far as to construct his own guitars to create sounds that conventional guitars couldn't. He even made this incredibly bizarre double-bodied guitar, which still kinda confuses me. Like, how the hell do you tune that thing? Glenn Branca's first studio album under his own name was 1981's The Ascension. Listening to it, I was surprised by how tight it all is. It's still chaotic in that the harmonies are dissonant and the time signatures are constantly shifting, but it's still very structured. You can tell that every individual note was planned out. What I find interesting about music like this is the way it sucks you in. The unconventionality of it all means that you're never sure as to what's going to happen next, and thus you have no choice but to keep listening. Branca would continue to record symphonies until his death in 2018. May he rest in peace. Around the time Branca began releasing his albums, a fellow New York City resident named Michael Gira formed a band called Swans. Swans were part of a musical movement called No Wave, which basically encouraged artists to experiment as much as possible. In Swans' case, their music revolved around harsh dissonance and pounding rhythms, along with nihilistic lyrics. Their debut album, Filth, represents this sound perfectly. As Gira himself said, "I wanted Swans to be heavier, though. I wanted the music to obliterate. Why? I don't remember. I think it just felt good." My favorite song on this album, Power for Power, has two pounding drum lines that almost sound out of sync with each other, a crushing bass line, and a constant mechanical hum in the background. All the while, Gira yells lyrics like, "Use sex for control, use power for power, use money for cruelty, use hate for freedom." It feels hyper-masculine to listen to. It almost makes you want to tear your shirt off and pound your fists against the wall. Swans would eventually shift towards a somewhat softer but still largely experimental sound, though their early releases still stand as some of the best music of the early noise scene. One of Swans' founding members would himself go on to heavily influence the noise genre. It was their bass player, a guy you might have heard of named Thurston Moore. He would go on to found a band you might have heard of called Sonic Youth. Out of all the artists I'm going to be talking about in today's video, Sonic Youth have by far gotten the most mainstream attention. Most of this is due to their later albums, which, by noise standards, are pretty calm. However, in their early days, Sonic Youth were one of the biggest groups in the New York City noise scene, and their debut album, Confusion is Sex, stands as one of the best examples of this era's music. Listening to the album makes you feel almost uneasy. They use unconventional tunings almost exclusively, and when combined with the fact that the two guitars are rarely playing the same thing, results in some of the best musical dissonance out there. Not only that, but I don't think there's a single major key lick on the album. It's truly dark. Even when Sonic Youth softened up considerably, they still had a ton of noise in their music. Case in point, one of my favorite songs of theirs, Sugarcane off of the Dirty album, has a midsection that's just a harsh noise breakdown with a pounding drum line. Very nice. All of the artists I've talked about so far have been based out of New York City. However, the next one I'll be talking about comes from the world's oldest empires, Japan. I'm talking about the one and only Merzbow. Merzbow got his start playing drums in several bands, though he left because he apparently couldn't tolerate their excessive weed smoking. He decided that rather than use drugs, he would make music that made people feel like they were on drugs. He takes the most radical approach to noise music of any artist I've mentioned so far. He disregards guitars completely, favoring synthesizers filtered through countless pedals. He even constructs some of his own instruments a la Branca, such as this banjo-looking contraption. The result is music that's borderline, some would say outright, unlistenable. The album of his I've listened to the most is Pulse Demon. It's 73 minutes of warbled white noise played at various speeds and volumes. Strangely enough, I actually kinda dig it. It's hypnotic in a sense. I figured I'd just listen to a bit of it until I got bored, but that didn't happen for a while, and I ended up listening to a good amount of it before I clicked away. While I haven't seen Merzbow live, this music seems like it would be best enjoyed in a live setting. That kind of leads into this comparison I want to make. There's this painter named Mark Rothko. There's a good chance you've seen his work without knowing it. He makes those color field paintings that, depending on who you ask, are either deeply emotional abstract pieces or dull hack jobs that anyone could do in 5 minutes. Given that paintings are not my area of knowledge, I will not say which one I am. According to him, however, most people who viewed his paintings weren't doing so in the right way. He said that you're supposed to stand right up close to the painting so that it overwhelms your field of vision. Once the color is all you can see, you begin to notice individual variations in the brushstrokes, and that's the only way you can truly understand his work, according to him at least. This is kind of similar to the fact that a lot of noise music is better appreciated in a live setting. You know, it's easy to judge a Rothko painting when all you've seen are photos taken from like 20 feet away, and it's easy to judge noise music when all you've heard of it are low-quality MP3s on YouTube. Only when you've experienced it the way it's meant to be experienced can you properly understand it. Obviously, I'm not saying that you're not allowed to dislike noise music unless you've seen it live, but it's just something to think about. Okay, back to the music. While all of this musical ground was being covered, a group from the UK was making some of the most abrasive music I've personally ever heard. This group was called Whitehouse, the musical child of one William Bennett. Whitehouse played a style of music called power electronics, and are often credited with inventing the genre. Power electronics is a genre that focuses specifically on being as unlistenable as possible, which is achieved by the use of blaring volumes and drastically shifting frequencies, with vocals usually being either yelled or distorted. Bennett himself once said, "I often fantasize about creating a sound that could bludgeon an audience into submission." A big focus of the genre also has to do with the imagery and lyrical subjects of the artists playing it. Whitehouse's early songs center around themes of murder, abuse, sexual fetishes, and I'm sure I've missed some. Just looking at the names of their early albums will reveal titles like Birth, Death, Experience, Total Sex, Psychopathia Sexualis, and Right to Kill.
Lighten up, Francis.
Musically speaking, as I said about Merzbow, a lot of their songs kind of suck me in without my noticing, and some of their later songs I find interesting from a lyrical perspective. There's a song of theirs off the album Bird Seed called Cut Hands as a Solution. Musically, it consists of a simple drum beat repeated throughout the entire track while Bennett does vocals. This song's lyrics relate to mental health. Specifically, they resemble the inner voice of a person dealing with severe mental illness. They berate the subject over their various self-destructive habits before repeating at the end of every verse, "But still, I'll tell you, it's helping. And still, I'll tell you, you're doing the right thing." This is made all the more powerful by Bennett's vocal delivery. By the end of it, he's basically screaming at you. When the song finally finishes, you feel numb. Okay, I don't want this to be a downer video. Let's switch to something a little more lighthearted. But before I do, I should probably mention that Whitehouse are not on Spotify. I actually cannot find most of their early albums online, so while I do want you to check them out, good luck actually finding them. Our next band once again takes us to the east coast of the United States, specifically to the one and only Rhode Island School of Design in Providence. It was at that school in 1994 that a band called Lightning Bolt was formed by the two Bryans, Gibson and Chippendale. They also had a guitar player at first, but he didn't do much with them, and so I won't be mentioning him again. Lightning Bolt, being a duo, have an interesting instrument setup, with Gibson on bass and Chippendale on drums and vocals. Any band with a singing drummer automatically gets my attention. The way Chippendale does his vocals is also pretty interesting. As a singing drummer, you have two options insofar as microphones go. You can either take a microphone on a stand, stick it in front of your face, and have to unnaturally keep your face in the same position while you're doing all your stuff, or you can get one of those Madonna clip-on-your-face microphones. Chippendale decided that the second was best for his chaotic drumming style, but instead of clipping the mic to his face, he had it sewn into a sort of ski mask-like contraption that he wears while he plays. Not just that, but he filters his vocals through layers of distortion and delay, which is fitting since clean and untouched vocals wouldn't really fit with this kind of music. He's not the only member of the band to play his instrument, voice is an instrument, in an unconventional style. Gibson disregards conventional E-A-D-G bass tuning in favor of C-G-D-A with a banjo string for the high A. Any cello players watching this will recognize that tuning right away. He too adds multiple layers of effects to his bass, which when combined with Gibson's distorted vocals and wild drums, it results in a true symphony of chaos. Gets your blood pumping. Lightning Bolt are another band that's known for their live shows. They're known for refusing to play on an actual stage, preferring to play in the audience section, surrounded by fans. I'm sure this must be a nuisance for security, but I respect their desire to be unconventional. They're also responsible for one of the greatest live performances I've ever seen on YouTube, which is them playing their song Dead Cowboy at Tycho Club 2014. I'm demanding that right after you're done with this video, you go and watch that clip. Lyrically, Lightning Bolt take a pretty humorous approach most of their time. Why else would they write a song called Dracula Mountain? Their biggest hit on Spotify, 13 Monsters off the album Ride the Skies, has lyrics akin to a playground chant. 1, 2, 3, 4, we must lock the door. 5, 6, 7, 8, we must evacuate. 9, 10, 11, 12, we must prepare for 13 monsters, 13 monsters. Catchy. The final band I'm going to be talking about is pretty new, so they haven't had quite the impact on the genre that the other bands have, but I dig them, so I say they get to be included. Hailing from Ireland, Gilla Band have proven to be one of the best noise bands of the 2010s. They were actually founded as Girl Band, and were known as that until 2021 when they decided that, well, it wasn't a very accurate name. Gilla Band plays a style of noise music heavily inspired by post-punk and electronic music, resulting in some of the best grooves in the genre. Their song Pears for Lunch off the album Holding Hands with Jamie has a guitar playing an uneasy staccato line, while the bass and drums lock in together to provide a nice head-bopping rhythmic backbone. The same album has the song Paul, which has a lovely slide bass line that lulls you into a sense of calm. In both cases, the song eventually delves into cathartic chaos. Singer Dara Keely's vocals definitely contribute a great deal to the band's sound. His vocal delivery is a kind that isn't exactly spoken word, but nonetheless has a very matter-of-fact tone to it. As is the case with any self-respecting noise singer, he's not afraid to delve into shouting whenever the song needs it. I like these guys quite a bit, and I think they're doing a good job at carrying the torch for the genre. So there you have it. For a genre whose very existence might seem paradoxical, noise music has quite a lot of quality bands. Not just that, but its influence has spread all over the world, from Japan to Ireland. There's enough variety between the artists to where there's something for people of all kinds of tastes. Now that I've done a fair bit of talking, I want you to do a fair bit of listening. Pick any of the bands I've mentioned and go check them out. If you like them, then congratulations, you have something new to add to your musical rotation. If not, hey, at least you tried something new. If you're still watching by now, I just want to say thank you so much for giving me your time. If you enjoyed what you saw, be sure to like and hit subscribe. I upload these videos whenever I can, and I always have a ton of fun making them. Hopefully you have as much fun watching them. If you have an idea for a subject you want me to cover in a future video, leave it in the comments. Who knows, maybe I'll get to it. I'm Robbie J2734. I will see you when I see you next.